ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. Most people spend hours grooming their appearance, working on their bodies, dressing their best, but never take a moment to train the one thing that controls it all, their mind. You can dress like a king, but if your mind is still living like a slave, you will walk into every opportunity and sabotage it. You can be in the right place with the right people and still make the wrong decision because an untrained mind cannot handle a blessed life. The greatest battlefield is not in the economy, it's not in politics, it's not even in the physical world. The greatest war is fought between your ears. That's where fear lives. That's where excuses are born. That's where dreams are either built or buried. And until you confront the thoughts that limit you, you will keep repeating cycles, no matter how much you pray for change. You were not born with a weak mind. You were given the capacity to think, to create, to decide. But the problem is, life trained your pain more than your potential. So now you react instead of lead. You settle instead of build. You accept things you were born to change, not because you're weak, but because no one told you that your mind must be trained like a soldier, not pampered like a child. Everything God has placed in you, your gifts, your purpose, your future, it's all waiting on one thing: for your mind to catch up with your destiny. You can be anointed, gifted, and positioned for greatness, but if your mind is not trained, you will destroy the very thing God gave you. Think about it. How many times have we seen people rise to a platform they prayed for, only to fall from it because their thinking was not prepared to handle the weight of that blessing? An untrained mind will always mismanage opportunity. It's not because the opportunity was wrong. It's because the mind was still operating from patterns of fear, doubt, and small thinking. A person can be surrounded by open doors and still stay outside. Why? Because their mindset is locked in a room of insecurity. You don't rise to the level of your prayers, you rise to the level of your preparation. And the most important preparation is not your wardrobe, your resume, or your talent. It's your thinking. It's your ability to handle pressure without breaking. It's your capacity to lead yourself when no one is watching. In the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." He didn't say be transformed by emotion or desire or even prayer. He said by the renewing of your mind. That means real transformation begins in how you think. Because if you don't change your thoughts, you will repeat your habits. And if you repeat your habits, you will recycle your pain, even in new environments. A renewed mind doesn't just visit new places, it lives with new standards. Training the mind is not about avoiding struggle, it's about learning how to think above it. Because if you let pressure control your thoughts will control your future. Consider this. If you gave a poor man $1 million but didn't change his mindset, he would likely end up poor again. Why? Because money doesn't change the mind, it exposes it. In the same way, success doesn't create discipline, it reveals whether it was there all along. Some people are praying for a new level, but God is waiting for a new mindset. He will not pour new wine into old wineskins because the structure can't hold it. If God gave you everything you're asking for right now, would your thinking know what to do with it? Or would fear talk you out of it? Would insecurity shrink your decisions? Would pride make you mishandle it? Confronting your mind means confronting the thoughts that keep you average. It means asking yourself hard questions. Why do I settle for less? Why do I fear what others think? Why do I shrink in the presence of greatness? Why do I sabotage opportunities with procrastination, excuses, and self-doubt? These are not just emotional issues. These are mental strongholds that need to be torn down with discipline and truth. Your future doesn't begin when things get better. It begins when your mind gets stronger. A trained mind doesn't panic in storms. It leads through them. A trained mind doesn't get distracted by opinions. It's focused on purpose. A trained mind doesn't wait for approval. It moves with conviction. And most importantly, a trained mind doesn't live by what it sees. It lives by what it knows. The difference between where you are and where you could be is not distance, it's development. You don't need a new year or a new job or a new circle to elevate your life. You need a renewed way of thinking. Because when your mind is trained, your decisions align with your destiny. Take the time to train your mind, because everything God has for you depends on what your mind is ready to handle. The greatest battles you will ever fight won't happen in the workplace, in your relationships, or even in your finances. The most consistent, brutal war is fought in the silence of your own thoughts. Every day your mind becomes a battlefield between faith and fear, vision and doubt, discipline and distraction. The war isn't about what's around you, it's about what's within you. If you win in your mind, you'll win in life. But if you lose there, nothing else can hold you up. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where everything seemed fine on the outside, but internally you were in turmoil? People saw your smile, but they didn't hear the voice in your head questioning your worth, your ability, your future. That's because the real fight isn't physical. It's mental. You don't lose because life gets hard. You lose because your thoughts surrender before you even begin. You can't take new territory with an old mindset. It's like trying to download new software on a corrupted hard drive. No matter how good the content is, if the system isn't ready, it will crash. In the same way, many people are trying to move forward in life, but their thinking is outdated, infected with fear, damaged by trauma, or weakened by years of self-doubt. Until that changes, progress will always feel like a struggle. Have you ever noticed how two people can face the same challenge but respond completely differently? One gets crushed, the other grows. The difference isn't in the pressure, it's in the perception. The first person sees a wall, the second sees a ladder. What makes that possible? The mind. Because how you see the battle determines how you fight it. Consider athletes at the highest level. Physical training gets them to the arena, but it's mental toughness that wins the game. The difference between champions and talented failures is never just skill, it's mindset. Champions rehearse victory in their minds before the game ever begins. They've trained their thoughts to align with the outcome they want. Have you trained yours? Most people try to change their life without changing their mind, and that's why frustration sets in. It's like trying to fly a plane with no fuel. You have the right equipment, but no power to move. Your mind is the engine of your future. If you don't control it, it will default to fear, comfort, and survival. But you weren't made just to survive. You were made to conquer. Ask yourself, what thoughts dominate my day? Do I lead my mind, or do I let it wander into doubt, comparison, and confusion? Do I intentionally build thoughts of courage, discipline, and faith, or do I let negativity set up camp in my imagination? The truth is, whatever you allow to live in your mind will eventually show up in your life. You must guard your thoughts like a soldier protects a fortress. Not every idea deserves entry. Not every emotion deserves agreement. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it deserves a seat at your table. You must filter what fuels your focus, because your future depends on what you feed your mind. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you if he can distract you. If he can keep you fighting battles in your head that God already gave you the power to win, he's won without lifting a finger. That's why discipline is not just about your schedule. It's about your mental habits. It's not just about what you do. It's about how you think while you do it. If you want to win in life, start by winning in your mind. Train it, guard it, discipline it, because the fight is not outside of you. It's always been within. From the moment we are born, life begins teaching us. But the tragedy is most of us have been trained more by pain than by purpose. Instead of being shaped by vision, we've been shaped by survival. Instead of learning from dreams, we've learned from disappointments. And so we grow up thinking small, fearing rejection, avoiding risks. Not because we are weak, but because pain became our teacher and built a curriculum around fear. Look back on your own journey. How many decisions did you make, not out of passion, but out of fear of being hurt again? How many opportunities did you walk away from, not because you weren't qualified, but because something inside you said, don't try, you'll fail like last time? That voice is not your future speaking. That's your past rehearsing itself in your mind. And until you retrain your thinking, you will live the same year over and over and call it growth. Pain is a powerful teacher, but it's a terrible master. It will teach you to hide when you should shine. It will teach you to defend when you should lead. It will teach you to settle when you should soar. The problem is when pain becomes your coach, it conditions you to play it safe. And nothing great was ever built in safety. Imagine someone who has touched a hot stove. They learn to be cautious. That's good, but if they let that moment define them, they may never enter a kitchen again. And that's the danger. We take one betrayal and let it teach us to trust no one. We take one failure and let it teach us to stop trying. We take one rejection and let it teach us we're not enough. But what if your pain isn't meant to stop you? What if it's just a signal telling you what still needs healing? Some people have learned how to live around pain instead of dealing with it. They dress it up with success, mask it with humor, hide it behind busyness. But when the noise stops, their mind is still filled with fear. Why? Because pain was never confronted. It was just covered. And what you don't confront will control you, not because it's stronger than you, but because you never told it to leave. The mind, when shaped by pain, becomes limited in what it can see. It creates mental boundaries and says, don't go beyond this. It's not safe. But those boundaries are lies. They are built from memory, not from truth. You're not limited. You've just been trained to think small, to avoid risk, to question your value. The moment you realize that, you can begin to rewrite the story. Ask yourself, what beliefs do I carry that were formed during my lowest seasons? Do I let the voice of pain have more influence than the voice of purpose? Who has been the loudest teacher in my mind, my past or my potential? Because until your potential speaks louder than your pain, you will never step fully into what you were created for. Purpose must become your new instructor. And like any good teacher, it will stretch you, correct you, challenge you, but it will also lead you to freedom. It will build a new mindset that doesn't flinch at pressure, doesn't retreat at rejection, and doesn't confuse comfort with calling. You have to make a decision. Who gets to train your mind now? Pain or purpose? Fear or faith? Trauma or truth? Because you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to believe from this point forward. Take the time to train your mind. Because everything God has for you depends on what your mind is ready to handle. The future isn't determined by luck, timing, or even your current circumstances. It's determined by the capacity of your thinking. The size of your future is limited by the size of your mind. It's like trying to pour a gallon of water into a pint-sized cup. No matter how much water you have, if your container is too small, most of it will be wasted. Your mind is the container for your destiny. If your thoughts are narrow, your life will be narrow. If your vision is limited, your future will be limited. Think about someone who grew up believing they were not worthy of success. Every challenge seemed like proof of that belief. Their thinking created invisible barriers that kept them stuck, no matter how many opportunities they were given. On the other hand, there are people who refuse to let limitations define them. They see setbacks as setups. They build mental muscle to handle pressure and grow through pain. The difference is mindset. What does it mean to have capacity in your thinking? It means you are able to handle more responsibility, more influence, more breakthrough. Like a muscle, your mind can be trained to stretch beyond what it currently holds. The problem is many people never push their mental limits. They stay in comfort zones, repeating the same thoughts, living the same lives, hoping for change but never investing in the discipline of growth. Ask yourself, how wide is the lens through which I see my future? Am I thinking small because that's what's safe? Or am I willing to think big enough to match God's plan for my life? Most people want miracles, but think like victims. They want breakthroughs, but believe in limits. They want destiny, but settled for less. Look at how businesses grow. A startup that thinks only local will never become global. A business that refuses to innovate will become obsolete. The same principle applies to your life. If your thinking is stuck in, this is all I can do, or I'm not ready, you're limiting your growth before it begins. Growth happens when you stretch your mind to believe that you can handle more, learn more, become more. It's also important to remember that your environment impacts your thinking. You can't expect a small mindset to produce big results if you stay surrounded by limiting beliefs, negative people, or outdated thinking. Sometimes you have to change your circle, your habits, and even the content you consume to expand your mental capacity. Here's a question for you. Are you feeding your mind with thoughts that enlarge your possibilities, or are you feeding it with doubts and fears that shrink your vision? The mind is a garden. Whatever you plant, you will harvest. If you sow seeds of limitation, your future will be limited. If you sow seeds of faith, discipline, and courage, you will reap a harvest of abundance. Consider the example of great inventors, entrepreneurs, and leaders throughout history. What set them apart wasn't just talent, it was their ability to think beyond the present reality. They imagined futures that others couldn't see and worked relentlessly to build mental capacity to handle that future. Their minds were trained to hold bigger possibilities, and so their lives reflected those possibilities. If you want your future to be different, you must first change the size of your thinking. Train your mind to see the invisible, believe the impossible, and endure the uncomfortable. Your destiny requires a mind that is ready, willing, and capable of carrying it. Take the time to train your mind, because everything God has for you depends on what your mind is ready to handle. As you stand on the edge of your next season, remember this. Your greatest investment is not in what you wear, where you go, or who you know. It's in the training of your mind. Your mind is the gateway to your destiny, the battlefield where your future is won or lost. Choose to renew it, strengthen it, and discipline it daily. When you do, nothing can stop the fulfillment of the purpose God has placed within you. May you walk forward with courage, clarity, and conviction, knowing that a trained mind will carry you through every challenge and into every blessing. Thank you for your time and your openness to growth. I wish you the very best as you take control of your thoughts and transform your life. Good luck, and keep pressing toward your divine destiny.